Welcome to the Blueprint Podcast, where the blueprint to understanding a new and unified world is in our shifting consciousness.
Hey, welcome everyone. This is the Blueprint Podcast. I'm Angela Blaha, and this is Jason Hermanson. Welcome, Jason.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fantastic, thank you.
Awesome. We hope all of you are doing well. Today, we want to talk about karma in the DNA imprints. What happens when we get wrapped up in someone else's karma? And then what are the physical symptoms of releasing that sort of karma and all the changes that are happening within not only the body, but the whole shifting of the earth and everything else. So let's get to it. I know you have a story to tell us. Let's start off with that.
Yeah, awesome. All right. Kind of plays into the topic today. I have one of our boys is working on his driving skills. Excuse me. And we were driving into town last week. He was driving into town last week. And we have a long stretch of road that we have to take. It's nice and straight. And I could tell something was bothering him when he was driving. He kept looking in his mirrors all the time. I could tell he's getting frustrated. I can kind of feel his energy ramping up. So I finally asked him, like, "Hey man, what's wrong?" He goes, this person won't get off my ass, you know? And he said, "Watch her. She's zooming in and out. And she's acting like he wasn't going fast enough for her. He wasn't going over the speed limit. He wasn't going way under the speed limit. He's going the speed limit, which is 35 miles an hour. And he was doing everything he was supposed to do. And I could tell that was getting him frustrated. Then we get to a large intersection and it was super busy and he got stopped at the yellow light. So he stopped and this lady that was behind him got very irritated, pulled right up on his butt and told him he was number one twice, gave him two number one fingers and started wording some stuff. And I could tell that was really bugging him. I'm like, dude, you just got to relax. You can't worry about people. And then she ends up backing up because she was so close to him. She ends up backing up and then pulling out to the side of us. And I could tell she was talking to her passengers. She kept pointing over at us in our vehicle, but I couldn't. She would never look my way. I was getting ready. I was staring at her the whole time. I really wanted to smile and wave at her, and kind of rub it in a little bit that way. That's just who I am. But so as the light turned green, she just took off like a rocket ship and she was gone in no time. And it really bugged our son. And I kind of talked to him about it, said, hey, you can't let people, distract you when you're like that. It's their problem. Don't worry about it. You aren't doing nothing wrong. So we get to where we were, our destination, and he gets out, runs into his class. And I swap with him and I start heading home. And I took a different route home than he took. And I get about 3 blocks into my journey back home. And lo and behold, guess who got pulled over on the side of the road? It was that person, that lady that was bugging him. So I hurried up and called him after I got to another stoplight. I hurried up and called him, said, hey, look, Barrett, guess what happened? This person got pulled over. And then instantly I could tell his energy changed. He was happy. And on our way home, on our way to his class, he's like, man, I just hope she gets pulled over. I just hope she gets pulled over. And lo and behold, he must have manifested something because that's what happened. So it was a perfect example of karma coming back to getting that person. But also more so not letting other people affect who you are and allow yourself to move off your center, right? And that was the really big takeaway for me, especially in talking to our son about that, is not allowing other people to impact you in a way that allows you to move off center, right? So you lost your center point, which kind of really plays into the topic for today.
Yeah, I think that it's a great story. And, the whole pattern of coming around, like, her being agitated, trying to agitate others, the projection of that. And then, getting pulled over is really the other form of projection, which is, I hope she gets pulled over. So there's a lot of this projection happening in our world right now. It's very much outward because we're not really taking the time to look inward and saying, okay, why would this bother me in the first place? But that I think is a great experience, and the letting go of that is probably, I want to say it's probably the most important, because we are when we're transforming, when we're doing this transitioning kind of work, letting go of whether it's family karma, whether it's ancestral kind of karma, whether it's your own karma, and all karma is a repeating pattern, right? And so letting go of those repeating patterns that have been imprinted within our DNA is one of the most important things that we can do right now, especially when we're shifting so rapidly, and we have all of these sort of a good portion of people are starting to have physical symptoms now, and that is honestly the imprinting of the DNA actually leaving the body and transitioning into something new, or upgrading that imprint, or actually just getting rid of the imprint completely. Some of us are doing some really deep work. So when we're talking about letting go of these patterns that we have, I think that it's important to sort of dive into that pattern. You talking to your son about, not allowing people to get under his skin, and not allowing people to sort of pull him off his own center. That is priceless. Literally, that is the priceless component that if you can actually make that happen within your own self, that's the thing, right? When you are in a world that is so full of distraction, and so full of negatives and positives, and so full of opinions and everything, being on your own center, or in your own center at all times, I want to say it's in the past, it's been really, really hard. Moving forward, I think that we're going to see a shift in that, and I think it's going to get much easier. But that is the key, especially when you're transforming yourself, especially when you're working through these kinds of things, is not allowing someone else to pull you off your center. So, yeah.
Or allowing yourself. Yeah, I think that's the whole key takeaway of this discussion today,
Mm-hmm.
is not allowing yourself to shift off of your center, right? Don't lose track of your compass, and stay true to who you are, and stay true to your track. You're going to waver, we're humans, life gets in the way. You're going to shift side to side, but always try to pull back to center. Always try to get back to that center location for yourself. Don't allow others to do it, and don't allow yourself to do it, which sometimes is hard.
Yeah. Yeah, when we allow these old patterns to show up, because they're going to come into our life again, because we're transforming. And when we're transforming, when we're working through our shadow, or working through some sort of, some sort of pattern or belief system, or even emotional patterns, things are going to come in, right? And, that whole concept of having an onion where there's layers and layers and layers. That's true, because we carry so much of it in our DNA. Now, when we're working through these old patterns, and if they show up, what's the best thing to do when they do show up, right? How do we start to move through them, or actually even acknowledge them, or even recognize them? I think that's part of the problem, is sometimes we don't want to recognize them because we don't want to do any work. And so we're just I'm going to push that under the carpet for a while. But we may know that they're there, right? But we don't want to engage in them. I think that that's probably the hardest part, is to say, okay, I'm going to do this work, just to literally say. But when you have someone else to talk to, or talk you through it, I think that that's super helpful. Like you did with your son, that was super helpful.
Yeah. I mean, let's be honest. No one really wants to work on their shit. It's not fun. It's painful. It's not great, but having someone else be there to kind of help facilitate, kind of hold you accountable, hold you true. That's always very helpful. But you're absolutely right. You made you said it twice there, is acknowledging and recognizing, right? Just acknowledging that, oh shit, that's a pattern. Maybe I need to deal with that now. Mentioned this before, but just allowing that level of acceptance of that piece. It might not be 100% of it, just little pieces at a time. Just acknowledge it and provide a level of acceptance that even just it exists, and then the healing process starts. But something else I think that's also important is when you're talking about these imprints on our DNA, it's not just imprints that you have caused yourself, right? Over this lifetime, previous lifetimes. It's family DNA, right? It's ancestral DNA imprints that have happened over time. So you have that layer. But also the world we live in and the environment we find ourselves in from lifetimes ago to this lifetime all also provide imprints on our DNA. So just kind of keep that in mind. Just different global affairs, different environment changes, those will all impact and imprint on your DNA and all of our DNA, right? That we carry with us. So it's not just healing yourself on the imprints that you've put on your DNA or you've put on yourself. It's what your ancestral stuff that you're carrying with you, along with your environment, the global type impacts, cosmic impacts as well.
Yeah, I think that it's really important to mention that we can have on-planet imprinting in our DNA and we can have off-planet imprinting in our DNA. And I think we're going to start moving into some of those experiences of off-planet where, and I don't mean to be like create a fear factor here, but we do have lifetimes, especially between death and birth, where we have gone someplace else or have experiences in a different dimension or a different frequency. And I think that some of those will start to come back in. Like, for example, here's one of the examples that I have. For eons ago, I have a lot of memory from the creation of Earth and the creation of when the gods came in, and then we started to, for lack of a better word, I don't even know what it was called or what it should be called, but when we started to actually see the human or creation of the human experience, there was a lifetime there where I primarily was colonized in Peru for a really long time. And then there was a lifetime in between lifetimes where I had died, but I had not been reborn into a human experience yet. And I remember coming to Lake Titicaca area, and we would hum, like do like primordial sounds that would strengthen the earth, that would strengthen the codes within humanity. And so, that I was not in a flesh at all. It was very much a spirit kind of form. It wasn't angelic or anything like that, but it was like a vibrational frequency. And there was a group of beings that would simply just sort of make this tone, primordial sound, literally, and it would vibrate the earth, and it would help create the DNA. I want to say it was like DNA kind of creation for humanity. So it was, I know, right? So there are these kinds of experiences, I think, that we're going to start having memory of.
Okay, so pause. This is the part I always say this: pause, rewind. We're going to come back now, right? You're going to have to repeat. You're going to have to listen to that probably 3 times. Everything that we just talked about.
Yeah.
It's amazing how this stuff just kind of works. We really never have a plan. Everything just kind of falls in order when we get together, right?
Yeah.
So I was getting ready to talk about this, the energy right now at this moment in time, the energy that's on this globe. I don't think it's necessarily Just for me, I think it's, everybody, but the energy is like it's super high. The frequencies are super high right now. The energy is super high right now. Everything's shifting, moving. Sometimes it seems a little mantic at times, it's like, what the hell? You go so high and then so low, and right, left, up, down, all this shit. But we'll jump into those physical impacts from all of that in a little while. But what you just described, with what you remember from your times in Peru, that type of stuff is happening right now. Right now, today, there is people, humans, energies that are creating this blueprint, this new creating this new, doing things just like that in 2023. And that's something that we need to keep in mind as we continue to discuss on this podcast, along with today, with the impacts people are feeling. That vibrational frequency that you were creating here on Earth, you were establishing those foundational aspects of this rock and the energy with those to help sustain human beings, right? To help sustain that creation of a human actually living here and being an energy being here. And that same sort of thing's happening right now today.
Yeah. Well, it has to, right? Because we have to have the different vibrations in order to match and sustain not only Earth, but how Earth actually plays in the universe. And so yeah. And, I think that's part of, when you were talking about that, there was some information that came in, and it was like, so I've been experiencing a lot of, it's sort of dizziness, but it's not really dizziness. It's more of a euphoric kind of feeling. A lot of my clients have been experiencing that, and some people that we know, and it's like you're here in this dimension and then you're in another dimension. So I think that's the shifting, right? This leaving the DNA imprint, or getting rid of your karma, letting go of your karmic patterns, and shifting into these new frequencies and these new vibrations. And the physical body is always the last to catch up, I feel, because it has an old program running in it, and we have to change that program. And so I don't think that you're like super crazy, because I was like, wait, do I have inner ear imbalance again? And I was like doing all those kinds of things. I even took my blood pressure to make sure it was good. So I'm not saying not to do those things. You should probably do those things just to check things out medically. But know that a good portion of these symptoms that we're sort of having are because of this shifting in our DNA, in the imprinting of our DNA.
Yep. At the cellular level.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
all the
we're
way
changing
down
frequencies, and so
Yep. Yep. And we're changing our DNA coding, changing the way our cells function, manipulate. There's all sorts of physical changes that are happening. You can Google it. It's out there on the web. Just go Google it. It's out there. But that it is all because of these, what we've been talking about, this new creation, right? This entering into the new. We know we can't continue down the path we've been on. We can't sustain life here on this rock the way we've been doing it. So a shift needs to take place, and that shift is happening now.
Yes, for sure. There's no going back on this one. Okay, so what kind of things can we do to sort of help those physical conditions, or to actually move or let go of the DNA imprints of the old patterns? There's something that you're doing. Go ahead.
Oh, before we jump into kind of what we can do to kind of help ride out these waves, do you want to talk about some of more of the examples that we have been feeling, that other people we've talked to have been feeling? Do you want to talk about those too? You want to, where do you want to go first? What people are seeing and feeling, or do you want to go and jump right into what we can do to help resolve some of that?
Well, I guess most of the people that I work with have this dizzy euphoria kind of in and out of dimensional frequencies. Very little headache. Like I think we had headaches way before, but I don't think a lot of people are experiencing headaches now, unless you are or you see people. I see a lot of facial changing in people, like their faces, the structures of their faces, the color of the eyes are changing. Um, a lot of that I'm actually seeing with clients and with people just in general.
Yeah, I would agree. Um, some other things that people I've talked to, and including myself, fall into some of these is a little bit different rhythm of your heart. Your heart will beat a little bit differently, so much so you'll be able to tell. It's like arrhythmia changes, so much so you'll probably go get your blood pressure checked. You might even go see a doctor for that. I know that's something that I've been having the last couple of months.
Mhm.
Let's see what else. Your appetite changes.
Mhm.
It's almost like, you know how in the middle come that October, November time frame, when you're kind of getting ready for winter, that hibernation type feeling where you start feeling more hungry and you're eating more. That seems to be happening as well. You can't get enough substance, you can't get enough calories. um let's see.
I think that that's a mineral and vitamin issue, to
Yep.
be super honest. I don't think
Yep.
that our food supply is cutting it. Well, I know it's not. And I think that that whole hunger thing, but it's also an internal hunger of, I got to change, I got to move, I got to, I got to get rid of this stuff. And I think that we sort of, um, well, we don't really know how to handle that kind of physical hunger within you. That's actually a soul hunger. I think we're talking about two things here, but um, we want to say that it's just the physical body, but there's a deep yearning, a deep hunger, energy hunger that we are not used to, that is coming into play here. And I think that the recognition of that, some of that can be, karmic patterns, especially if you have early memory of, the creation of humanity, the creation of this earth within this galaxy. So if you have that kind of memory, that can be a karmic pattern, right? That we need to let go of first in order to shift into this creation of the new. So I think that those two things are not necessarily equal, but we are equalizing it to a physical body issue versus a soul issue, it's not really an issue. It's just this really deep yearning of, I got to change.
Yep,
You
absolutely. There's that.
may not know what it is, but
Yep.
yeah.
Absolutely. Your sleep patterns will be adjusted.
Yeah.
They'll change depending on what you're used to seeing to what you currently see. So sleep patterns will change. You'll probably sleep more during periods of the month, and then you'll also sleep less during periods of the month.
Particularly around the moon phases. Let's add that in, because the moon phases right now, they're being used to bring in new vibration and to let go of the old vibration. And so that cycle that we're so used to is being used, and to bring in new and to let go of old. So
Yep. Your memory, you probably
memory.
could see impacts in your memory. What, if people that know me, I have a bear trap for a memory. I can remember all sorts of stuff, but that has been shifting and changing from time to time these last handful of months, along with just how your brain functions. Things that you used to be able to do lickety split without even thinking about it might not be that way. Or you might like, where in the hell did this all of a sudden come from? Well, how do I know how to do this? There's just different patterns in the way you think, the way your brain functions, and the way you physically function in relationship to your brain. Those sort of things will also, you'll see changes there. Again, it's all in that whole vibrational frequency changes we're going through along with our DNA changes at a cellular level, and just the different organs in our body are changing just like we are as humans, energetically, physically, all that different stuff. So
I think another thing is, like, I've had a real physical yearning to have like a hot tub and then a cold water plunge. Like, I've never ever had desires to do that before. Now that's coming into play. Cranial sacral kinds of things are, like, people are really experimenting with those. Anything like physical, like massage, that kind of thing. IVs, like we've both had, I have had IV, you know, what are those called? I can't remember.
oh yeah, the vitamin IVs.
Yeah. Like, you
Spa,
feel
the IV
exhausted sometimes.
spas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
IV
Yeah.
spa. So those kinds of things, I've had a real, like, yearning for that. Like, anything to move energy or to move cells in the body even. I do know that directing the body with your mind is really easy compared to what it used to be a year ago even. Like, telling the body what to do, it's real easy. And the body responds much quicker than before.
Yeah, we have the, we've said for a long, long time, you have the ability to heal yourself. People have been talking about that. I mean, that's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Angela, is just that seems to be a lot easier today
Mhm.
than it did a couple years ago, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Even at the beginning of the year, it seems easier.
oh yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
For
So
sure.
there is an intelligence that's happening. And I think that in that vibrational change is from the releasing of these DNA imprints, these karmic patterns that we're talking about. I'm pretty sure because the cells now are responding to current times, right? To your current voice versus an old voice or an old pattern. And so it's getting much easier to shift the body. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. And if you have any other symptoms you want to run by Angela, reach out to her.
Yeah, for sure. We can help. All right. So what can we do to sort of be proactive, let's say, instead of reactive?
Well, again, acknowledging, right? Acknowledging that, oh, hey, this might be what this is. And the one thing I have been telling folks is anything that you do that you've always done or that you do that helps move your energy, right? Helps move your energy in a way that it helps bring you back into balance. If that's taking a bath, going for a walk, reading your favorite book, listening to certain music that has a certain frequency or vibration to it, other physical activities, working out, doing yoga, tai chi, meditating, anything like that, anything that you do that helps you find balance and that can help move your energy. That's what's key, is keeping this flow of energy, bringing in the new and letting go of the old, and just bringing everything back into balance. Because of how much shifting and moving the earth is doing, our physical bodies are doing, the universe is doing, it's important that we just allow that constant flow of energy, moving in the new, letting go of the old, and then just making sure we don't find, or we keep our balance.
I think we should go beyond balance, because balance comes into an old frame of, for me, it's an old karmic pattern. Like, we want to bring both positives and negatives into it. But if we're connecting with those neutrinos, right, then neutrinos go all the way through. The energy is moving constantly through the body. It's moving through the wall. It's moving through you. And so if we're coming into a state of balance or equilibrium, let's say, because it's more of a, I don't know anybody who's ever actually been fully balanced, not even the gurus, but it's a state of being that you are, where you feel good, right? That's what balance is. It's a state of feeling where you feel more, where you feel good about who you are, what you are, the thoughts that you have, the emotions that you're expressing, that kind of thing. But what if we actually took that up a notch? And what if we said, okay, well, I want to be in a state of, I don't know, maybe it is euphoria. Maybe that's why we're sensing this. We're having so many experiences with this sort of dizzy euphoria, because we're trying to pull ourselves into a equilibrium state, when maybe we need to be in a euphoric state, because we are moving, we are trying to move the physical body into a different vibration or a different frequency. And for us, the only thing that we can compare that to is euphoria, because it's a different vibration than the physical balanced kind of heavy energy of, bringing positives and negatives together. So I'm just, throwing stuff out here, channeling information. But what if we actually went into and stopped trying to leave that state of dizziness or euphoria, and we actually walked into it? I wonder what would happen if we actually, just sort of jumped into that whole kind of frequency.
I don't know. It'd be a pretty amazing place, probably.
Yeah, I think it would. I wonder how the body would shift, or if it would shift rapidly, or if it would sort of lag behind. Maybe I'll give it a go this week and see what happens.
and report back. I know exactly what you're saying. I can feel, I can see, I can hear the end state, right? I know where we're heading to. And I don't even know how to describe it. I don't even have the words, right? I don't even think the words exist to where the trajectory we are on to get to cross that finish line and to be in that place of bliss, or I don't know, the word. I don't even know what word to describe it as. There probably isn't even a word in the dictionary or in our language that allows us to describe that place of being. But I think it's going to be a pretty magical place.
Well, compared to where we've been.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
And we all, each one of us has the power to choose to get there, right? You don't need someone to lead you there. You don't, there ain't going to be anybody to help lead you there. There's going to be people that kind of help guide us and keep us on track, but there isn't an energy, a person or anything like that, a savior that's going to help get us to that place of bliss. But that's where we're heading. You can, like you mentioned, there's people are going to start experiencing bits and pieces of that, that awesomeness, that wonder, but that just helps keep us motivated to keep moving forward, right? If you can, you might be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel, but if you can't feel that light, or if you can't feel that light at the end of the tunnel, then you have a better chance of drifting, right? But if you can see it and you can feel it and you can know that's where we're heading, it's going to be a lot better chance that we're going to be successful to cross that line. Does that make sense?
And not, so let's address that feeling component, right? Because that's a huge component that makes us different, that makes humanity different from most other beings in the galaxy. So when we have these emotions or these feelings of something, that leaves imprints, but sometimes it doesn't look like it used to, and it doesn't, you don't experience it like not two people can experience the feeling of something the same, because everything that you feel and emotionally engage in 100% depends on your perspective, how you were raised, your experience with your family. Like, it all comes down to your own perception, and nobody has the same perception that you do. And so, when we're talking about feelings and emotions, like, do not compare yourself to someone else's feeling. They maybe be able to describe it like this dizzy, euphoria kind of experience. I don't have the experience of dimensional movement because I've experienced dimensions before, and it doesn't, for me, this physical euphoria that I'm experiencing doesn't have anything to do with dimensions. It does, in my viewpoint, have to do with frequencies and vibrations. And when I experience it, it's instantaneous, and it's sort of like, I don't even, again, I don't have the words to describe how I feel about it, but there is a sense within me that says something just changed, right? And so even though I may not have the words to describe the feeling of it, I know that something changed. Now that could be a feeling, right? When you know something changes, you know that there's a transformation, that can be a feeling. I think that we need to move away from the emotional feelings and say, okay, well, this is what I'm feeling, you know? So when we're talking about feelings, emotions, like, try not to, like, don't compare yourself. One thing, number one, do not compare your feeling to someone else's, because it's not going to be equal. And I want you to start thinking outside the box about what a feeling is, right? When you know something, that can actually be a feeling.
It's just energy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's just energy. Like you said, it's just frequency, vibrations. It's just energy. And that frequency, that vibration, that energy is going to have an imprint on you and your DNA, no matter the type or where it's coming from. But yeah, it's just like you said, it's a message, a knowing. We need to the message you're trying to say is we need to broaden our definition of a feeling.
Yeah, we can't stay in that limited version that we used to have of a feeling. I think because you would be taking that version into a new experience, and you can't do that. Well, you can, but you're still going to be limited in that new experience then. And so I think that we need to broaden our sense of what a thought is, what an emotion is, what a feeling is, what an action step is. Like this last couple of weeks, the cosmic energy has just been so supportive of doing something new in your life, of like really pushing us forward. I mean, all the stars and the planets are coming together to say, okay, here's all the energy that you need. Now take a movement, But if we're taking the same exact movement, we ain't going to get anywhere. We're not going to get anywhere. So we need to start thinking bigger, start feeling bigger, start, moving into different kinds of, different kinds of things. Like moving the body right now is really important, I think. So yes, go out for a walk, go for a run, do yoga, do all the things, but then think outside the box. Maybe acupuncture is what you need. Maybe, cranial, sacral, maybe a massage, maybe, I don't know, sitting in a hot springs and letting the water like literally move the DNA out of you, something. I think that we need to broaden our experiences and daily experiences with, something that we've never done before.
Yep, absolutely. You kind of hinted at that. Something that I just wrote down a little bit ago that we both had forgotten is getting time outside, getting times outside in nature, allowing the frequency and the vibrations, the energy of Earth, its transformation time to kind of help support you, and you can support it at the same time. It's a very powerful time, not just because it's spring and we're going into nicer weather in summer, but there's a lot higher meaning just getting outside in nature and allowing it to kind of help facilitate all of these changes.
Yeah, I'm all for making life easy. So the easier I can make the change happen, the quicker I'll do it.
Yeah, I don't do anything complicated. I only want to do things that are easy, but doesn't mean they're not going to be hard. I hate complications. So anything that helps make things transition smoother, and easier,
Yeah.
I'm all for it. So
Yeah, we really live in a very simple world. If you follow the energy, it's a very simple world, but humans like to complicate things because we bring in all these other things like competition and regret and anger and all this stuff to complicate things so that we make it like harder. And you can't make this transition that we're doing hard. Well, we can, but it would then be a wiping and not a transformation.
yep.
Yeah.
All right, what else?
Yeah. I think just regurgitating that, letting go of these old patterns that we have when they come up, like just acknowledge them, right? Like that's the first step, is to acknowledge things. That whole level of acceptance that Jason has talked about and that we've talked about, like accepting that you have this pattern, and then giving it what it needs. Like I think that we forget about that. When we have a pattern of, I don't know, what are some patterns that you might have that you just sort of like need to give it what it needs, and then it transforms and it does it so gracefully and easily. Well, let's take the physical body, for example, right? Like it's wanting to transform. That's the whole reason why we have symptoms, is because it's telling us, and it's a pattern that's saying, I need to get rid of that so that I can open up to something new. But if we're never gonna acknowledge that we have a euphoria or a dizziness or a headache or, lack of sleep, or sleeping patterns change, or our face is changing right before us and we don't even acknowledge that, then it's hard. Like we are making things very, very hard at that point when we're not acknowledging who we are, why we're here, the gifts that we have, the strengths that we have, and the transformation that we're working through. So go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No, I was just going to say, and then what happens when we don't allow that energy to flow and transition? It gets stagnant, right? It gets stagnant, it gets yucky, it's gross. And then it manifests into something that we don't want nothing to do with, right? Some sort of negative impact, some sort of sickness or illness. Yeah, exactly. So the example I was going to give is the arrhythmia of my heart right now kind of freaked me out at the beginning. I was like, what the hell? And I know I'm getting older, but holy shit, Jesus Christ. But hey, acknowledge the fact.
Karma.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we know, right? Heart issues.
We have heart issues. It's a family karma pattern.
I thought, what the hell? I got to my birthday age where this shit's gonna show up. And but just recognizing that there's a higher purpose for this, right? That something like that's just not gonna boom show up just like this. And with all the work that I've been doing, recognizing that, acknowledging the fact that, okay, if that's what this is, excellent. I'm going to start supporting that, right? Supporting that, doing things to help with that. It's so just talking to different people, getting my blood pressure checked, having a physical. I kind of worked out those things, right? To remove that fear factor from it. I did that, and then now just helping I know my heart's growing, it's blossoming, it's elevating. So just helping support that, right? Recognizing it, supporting it, removing the fear factor, and then providing a level of acceptance so I can be there for that organ, so that organ can be there for me.
You might need a heart healing hypnosis session.
Ooh, maybe. Do you know someone that can do that?
I do. I think I do. I think that's another thing that we sort of ignore is, when these symptoms do show up, it's like we think about the physicalness, but what about the emotionalness? Or what about the karmic patterns that are sort of hanging on? What about the thoughts that we have? What about, some of the past lives that could be imprinted, within our heart space or your heart space? And, how can we shift that? So I think, again, we need to think outside the box and say, okay, well, what is it that I really need here? Acknowledging it, having that level of acceptance and then giving it what it needs, I think is the key component to transformation, like giving the physical symptoms, which are, the part of the acknowledgement, which, give us the clues as to what we do need. So I think those kinds of giving the symptoms what they need is a way to instantaneously transform something, because it does transform when when your stomach is hungry and you feed it, it's instant transformation. It's the same thing. Yeah. So, and we can apply that to our mental health, to our physical health, to our spiritual health, to everything.
Yep. It's just energy. Just got to treat it that way.
For sure. Yeah.
And like you mentioned, what you just described, it's so much easier now in May than it was back in January, back to 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, for sure. Very so. All right, I think that should wrap up our discussion on karma and letting go of karmic patterns, and all the DNA imprinting that we are literally transforming as we speak. So thank you so much for joining today, Jason.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Anytime. All right, everyone. If you're looking for information, please check out my website at www.angelablaha.com. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us today. To find out more about Angela, visit her website at www.angelablaha.com.